Well, we are back with Ed Conard. He's a former managing director at Bain Capital under Mitt Romney. You are, of course, a Romney supporter, and you've been on the record saying that you donated about $1 million to his super PAC.
Yes.
And I wanted to actually read for you an interview we did about a month ago with Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel. And actually, we haven't released this interview, but this is compelling enough that I wanted to read the quote on what he says about super PACs. He says, "I think this is one of the single worst decisions by any Supreme Court ever." This is allowing super PACs. He says they have taken free speech and bastardized it where it's free for everybody that can afford it. If you have a gentleman waking up in Texas who writes a $23 million check, does he have more free speech than a single mother? It's basically putting a price on free speech. That's what this decision did.
Do I agree or disagree? I think there's
well, I think I know where you stand on that.
Well, a couple of things. One is I think, sure. Do I think it's a good idea to have super PACs? No, of course not. We should have all the money flowing into the campaigns and be accounted for. I think you do need a level playing field, though. You can't let the unions spend the money and groups like that, but then not have the other side spend the money. And I think when you step back and look at the big picture, you see that both sides are raising about the same amount of money. So, in some sense, they're canceling each other out. And in other senses, they are driving an increase in the amount of speech we're seeing on both sides of the equation. So,
right, but it feeds into this sort of, this public view, which is that the wealthy help the wealthy, and the wealthy get what they want because they have the money to spend it. It's not helping the overall economy. It's not helping public discourse.
I think, sure, I agree with that. But I do think you want to have balance on both sides. So you can't let one side raise money through labor unions and municipal unions and not have the other side have some sort of offset to that. But which is, I think, the path it could head down when you just put limits on individuals.
Okay. So your position creates also some other interesting positions, which is Warren Buffett, which you have also talked about. And I think, again, as I bring up this article, you had said Warren Buffett and him giving, most of his wealth to charity. You said, quote, "Quit taking a victory lap. That was money for the middle class."
Yes, well, I make the following argument, really. I say, I don't know how he's going to spend the money that he gives to charity. He may find a cure for cancer. He may fail trying to find a cure for cancer, and we could all be better off for it. So it's hard to know what he's going to do with his money. The point I was trying to make is this, is that when he makes a contribution, the middle class actually makes a bigger contribution than he makes to whatever cause he chooses. Because had he put that into the private economy and catered to the demands of consumers, largely middle-class consumers and other consumers as well, okay, they would have controlled how that money was spent and whether or not it would have been successful. He takes it out of that process and puts it into his own process, and he has the right to do that, to be sure, and we don't know what he will or won't do.
But why is that an either-or, though? I mean, he's at the same time giving away his money to charity for good causes, and at the same time, as we've seen, he's still making multi-billion-dollar deals. He's still investing in his business. Why can't you have both?
Sure, I think you can. But he may very well take the money, for example, and spend it trying to soothe pain in Africa, which may be good. But and I'm not trying to disagree with that. What I'm saying is the American middle class and the middle class generally that would have benefited from business investment had he made it are making a bigger contribution to that cause than he's making. And so my real frustration was not so much with Warren. It was, let's recognize that the middle class is making a bigger contribution than he is when he donates that money.
Okay. All right, Ed, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining me. Ed Conard, the author of Unintended Consequences. And we'll be back in 2 minutes on In the Loop.